Welcome to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. Today, let's talk about feedback. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are a new visitor, new listener, new watcher of this podcast channel, thank you for joining me. Thank you for checking me out. Hopefully, I provide you some valuable information, insight, tips, thoughts, something to challenge you, something to get you thinking, and maybe make some positive changes in your life, in your business, to get you on that path to ultimate success, whatever that may look like for you. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about feedback. And now you may be thinking like, hey, we're going to talk about how to do a feedback session with an employee. If you are a supervisor or a manager and you need to provide maybe it's a formal feedback session that your company has put in place. But that is not it. That is not what we're going to talk about today, because that is very, very, really it's kind of boring, right? Because it's a very tactical and mundane type of thing to do. There are reasons to do feedback sessions. There are ways to do feedback sessions to make them most effective and beneficial to both you as the employer as well as to the employee, the one receiving the feedback. But today we're going to talk a little bit about this one-liner that I heard. I was recently on Grant Cardone's. He does his periodically, usually leading up in advance of his business summit, big conference that he does, I want to say quarterly. He does a free online kind of mini business summit where he talks about all kinds of different products. And recently he started bringing in guest speakers. He's had like Shaquille O'Neal and Rob, starts with the D, Dryzik or something like that. He does the funny videos, kind of one of the original funny video host guys on MTV. But on this one, he had Kevin Turner, who more than likely, unless you are in the corporate world and have been in that for a long time, you've probably never heard of Kevin Turner, much like myself or my family. But it was really fascinating because Grant was, did such a great job of hyping him up. Like, you have to listen to this. This guy changed my life. Even on the interview that we had, I came away mind blown, right? So anytime a billionaire says, hey, after talking to this guy for 15 or 20 minutes and my mind was blown and I came away with all these ideas and I was running and trying to figure out what I was going to do next, that might be a good person to listen to. So I was intrigued. I was really excited and wanting to listen to this guy, Kevin Turner. Well, it comes to find out, so he was a former CIO of Walmart, so Chief Information Officer, but he has also served as COOs, Operation Officers for like Microsoft and Google, right? So kind of some big names in the corporate world. But it was interesting to listen to a story how he got a start in college as a cashier for his local Walmart. I'm probably going to screw that up several times throughout this, so just bear with me. But yeah, he started as a cashier, as a college student, to make some money while going to college in Walmart, and he worked his way up. And when he graduated college, he had the opportunity to go work for Walmart corporate. Presumably, he was in Arkansas somewhere. He didn't really get into that as part of his story, but got an opportunity to go work for Walmart corporate. And I guess Walmart corporate, I don't know if they still do, but at the time, every new hire in their corporate program had to do 2 years in their audit division. Well, he said of the 20-something young men and women that were hired that year in his year group, per se, he was the only one of them that had actually worked at a Walmart. So he's like, I knew where all the bones were kept, all the bodies were buried. He's like, he had all this insider information, and he accelerated. He shot so much so that the owner, Sam Walton, still active at the time, invited him to essentially work directly for him for his remaining year of this audit division commitment. And then at the end of that, because, again, he had proved himself and done so well, Sam Walton moved him into the IT department, and then he rose through the ranks there, and the rest was history. But anyway, just to give you an idea of probably why you should listen to a guy like this, and just hearing him speak, this interview is still on YouTube. Make sure you go to it. And if I remember and think about it, I will put a link to it in the description of this, so you can check that out. It is 100% worth listening to. It's like a 10 or 15 minute interview. But like the number one thing that he said that like the bolt of lightning that went from his mouth into my brain is he started talking a little bit about feedback, because Grant was asking him questions of what made you successful and how did you get successful, all those types of things that are common to ask somebody that has been super successful. And he makes this comment of feedback is the breakfast of champions. And I'm like, oh, what? Like, what does that mean? Feedback is the breakfast of champions. And what that means is, because we all have, if you're an American or North American culture, Wheaties was known for this, right? That was their tagline. That was what they sold billions of Wheatie flakes under, is the breakfast of champions, right? They were one of, if not the first, one of the first in the cereal industry to put people, famous people, in their case athletes, pictures on their breakfast cereal in order to help promote it and sell it, right? Eat this cereal, you're going to be a gymnast like Mary Lou Retton. Eat this cereal, you're going to be Michael Jordan. They'd put all these different athletes that were super famous at those time periods. And, everyone wanted to be that. Like, oh, so I'm going to eat this really nasty cardboard cereal. I will be honest, I've never had Wheaties in my life. That was not a cereal that was popular in my house growing up. We were definitely more of the Sugar Smacks type of people and that the Frosted Flakes. But that's a whole nother thing about talking about promotion and putting famous people to sell your product. But he talked about feedback is the breakfast of champion. And what I took away from that as he went on to explain a little bit of this is what makes you great. Feedback is what changes you from the mediocre, from the average, from the middle class to the upper class, to the great, to the advanced, to the expert in your field, is by getting and accepting, internalizing, and making the necessary changes based on that feedback. Now, certainly there's some feedback that you do want to discard, like, whatever, dude, you're insane. And you have to evaluate the source of the feedback, right? So if you're trying to do great things and your uncle who has never done anything great in their entire life is just ragging on you and you're never going to be successful, blah, 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 all of their insecurities and past failures are being focused and put into you, and they're providing you that quote unquote feedback that you're never going to be good enough, or blah, whatever that is, then that is feedback that needs to be duly ignored, because that is not the breakfast of champions. What Kevin Turner was talking about in the sense is feedback from appropriate sources, i.e. mentors, peers, people that you want to be like, people that you look up to, your heroes. In previous generations, we would say, our sports heroes, like feedback from, if Barry Bonds came up to you and said, hey, you need to adjust your swing here, here, and here, you'd probably take that advice if that was something that you were trying to do, is become a better hitter in a baseball league. You would do that because you want to emulate what Barry Bonds has been able to accomplish, and vice versa with any other sport. But in this sense, in his sense, he was talking about in the business world. The feedback he was able to receive from his mentors, Sam Walton, he named a whole bunch of kind of other people, in the Google world and in the Microsoft world, definitely with Bill Gates at the time, Paul Allen at the time. The feedback he was able to receive, accept, and make the necessary changes based on that feedback, because it was pointing him and encouraging him and driving him and pushing him to the type of person he wanted to be, both in his life and in business. And I just thought that was so fascinating. And it really got me thinking, what sources of feedback am I allowing into my life? Because what we allow into our life is what affects us, positive and negative. We may have somebody that is that ultimate encourager, positivity, like, you can do it, keep going, Kale, I believe in you, right? You may have somebody like that. Commonly, that's a mother or a father, a parent, somebody that no matter what, they believe in you, keep going, despite all evidence otherwise, but you want that encouragement in your life. But it could just as easily be that same person, as said previously, of, their insecurities, their fears, past failures, whatever, and they're like, maybe you should be doing this, or maybe that's too risky, and all those types of things. You really have to evaluate the source of the feedback that you're getting. And then, are you going to feast on it as a champion? Are you going to take those things and apply them to your life because those are good ideas? Those are ideas that are meant to push you and encourage you and promote you, versus ideas that are meant to really rein you in and stifle your potential based on somebody else's views. And that's really the trick, because that person that may be giving you that negative feedback is maybe somebody that you really love, that you've been with for a really, really long time, that supposedly they care about you. And that's hard to reconcile those things. But I want to get too much onto that kind of aspect of this topic. I want to talk, just kind of encourage you to think a little bit more of, how do you accept and really look at and implement feedback when you have determined that, yes, this is the right kind of feedback I need. And it could be negative feedback from somebody that you trust, in the form of, dude, that presentation sucked. It shows that you didn't put very much effort into it or thought into it, or if you did, you were going in the wrong direction of versus what the intent of this was. And that's good feedback. Even though it's negative in the sense, it's constructive criticism because it comes from a place of, yes, that sucked, but I know you're capable of doing so much better and you need to do better, right? That is somebody that, despite them probably having harsh words for you and in that moment of failure, they know and accept and they still believe that you're capable of so much more. And that's their way or their form of whether you call it tough love, constructive criticism, whatever it is, that's their form of, you can do it, do better. And those are the type of people we need in our life. And if you don't have that, start getting out there, meet those people. If you have to serve them first in some form or fashion to get into their world, to gain access to the world in order to, they're seeing you and what you've got going on and they're providing you that type of feedback, then do that because it is so valuable. If you don't have somebody that is challenging you in the form of giving you that feedback that you can feast on it as a champion and become a champion, you're losing out on half of the equation. Because sunshine and rainbows are great, right? That gets us through the hard days and the depressing days and the challenges, the encouragement words. My wife is a phenomenal encourager, right? She gets it. That's I think one of her love languages is those words of affirmation, and she's really good at that. But on the other hand, there are some times, and we've had this discussion with her and I before, is there's times where like, I get it, you believe in me, I understand that, but I need you to call me out on where I suck right now, where I am failing, where I am accepting a lower standard for myself because you see it probably better than I do, or you see a pattern that you can call out. And because you care about me and you love me and you want to see us succeed and me succeed, you also need to, as well as that encouragement, like, hey, I know you're capable of so much more and you can do this and you've got the skills, all those encouraging words. The same thing is, hey, did you hit that mark on this project? Was that last social media post, was that last thing you did or that talk you had with our boys, was that really your best? And that little bit of criticism, that little bit of feedback, I can now take and use that, that combination of the carrot and the stick in order to become the best as what we possibly can be. So yeah, Kevin Turner, like I said, I will try to put a link in the description box for this so you can check out that video if it's still live. I don't know how long Grant Cardone keeps those up for or not, or if he takes them down after a certain time. So if it is still available, I would highly encourage you to take a look at it. It was a phenomenal and very interesting interview. So yeah, feedback is the breakfast of champions. Make sure you think about that. Think about who's giving you the feedback and how you are eating it. Are you eating it for breakfast, or are you just discarding it? What's happening to help you become the champion that you need to be for your business, for your life, for your spouse, for your family, and for yourself? All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this interview. If you are new here, please make sure you subscribe so you get notifications of when new podcast episodes drop. Hint, they drop every afternoon, Monday through Friday. At least that is the intent and goal for now until death do us part. And if you've been around for a long time, please drop a comment like, hey, I've listened to, 80% of your episodes or all your episodes. That would be awesome. That would be really encouraging and great feedback for me to kind of feast on and keep this train rolling. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a fantastic afternoon, no matter where you're at in the world. Bye.